Welcome back to Design Connect 21. Our next speaker is Nthabi Taukobong, interior designer, and today her topic is I am. In a world where we are what we refer to ourselves as, what as an interior designer are you referencing when you say I am? And how close to the truth is it to who you really are? Her talk will be covering the journey of a creative and how we box as well as unbox ourselves as we work our way through understanding what our roles as designers are and how we best present ourselves and serve clients with that clarity. We can't wait to hear your talk, and Nthabi, over to you.
Oh my goodness. Thanks, Anita. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody has logged in and ready to talk. So, in simple English, I am Nthabi Taukobong. And welcome to my talk. I hope you feel inspired and ready to go. So, JD, are you ready? Can we have the talk on screen? Who are you and where do you pull your source of design inspiration? At any point in my career, one of the things that I've always been inspired by is a quote by Joel Osteen, which will be, I am, are you ready for this? What follows I am is where we invite or what we're inviting into our lives. And that's so applicable because what we are saying to the audience out there is who are you at any given time in your career, in your life, and in your personality. So I've referred to myself as the queen of African design. There was a point where in my career, of my 25-year career, where I was focusing on doing corporates and I exuded the corporate image. And then as I found myself longer on in my career, I started identifying with the bohemian style of Afro-Bohemian look and feel that I wanted to connect with. So this is a continuation of actually a point of discovery because 25 years is a long time to then box yourself into just two categories of being a luxury designer and an African designer. Luxury designer because obviously my background was specializing in high-end hotels and high-end homes. So I was a designer to the stars. I was jet setting around the world. And I also found that as I was jet setting around the world, I was connecting to other parts of me, the Afro-Bohemian Arabic goddess that I wanted to bring through in my design language was something that I was beginning to identify with along with the interiors that I was doing, because at any given time, my clients would be asking me to create a traditional interior, to create a classical interior, to create a modern interior. And if I'm only saying I'm a luxury designer, I'm an African designer, where does that put me in my creative understanding of what I'm doing? Because part of figuring out who I am is not necessarily always stating the obvious. It's as a creative to go further than that because trust me, it's a given. I'm Black, I'm female, I'm African. Those are the things that I've begun to understand that those actually just put me in a small little white empty box because I have to show the world, I have to show the creative world of understanding that beyond that, where else do I draw my source of inspiration from? I love Buddhism culture, religion. I love Chinese, Japanese style of understanding of design, and how that translates into my interiors is something I'm always curious about and wanting to find. So you have, these are inspirational shots, by the way, where clients started asking for modern fusion, for modern traditional. And what the world was then asking for was to say, how do we merge all these cultures and traditions and styles of design to become something that we are beyond our borders? It's very important as creatives to understand that we're beyond the boxes that we set for ourselves. I am African is a given. I am a luxury designer is an experience that I went through in my trajectory of my career. But creativity will get you noticed. What really keeps you in the room? What really keeps you in that space of design so that you can speak and visualize and adapt to a different language? And in Africa, we are famous storytellers. So I began to understand that I'm storytelling through design, and that in my African culture, what does that translate to in terms of interiors and my understanding of that? We had an opportunity to design a hotel in Phuket for the royal family during the World Cup. And that was my first understanding of how I can interpret that African designer into a language that could be communicated not only to South Africans, but to the world, to the UKers who were using that hotel during that stage. And just understanding that elements of fusing design, elements of being inspired by modern designs and cultures and tribal understanding, and how to bring that language and color and connection into interiors is something that I truly enjoy, but doesn't only speak to who I really am. So in my search of wanting to make sure that the design speaks to who I am as an African designer, I then also began to understand that those elements of design that I'm bringing through and the language of understanding that I'm creating has to propel me into another reality that I need to be aware of, because I've celebrated 21 years in the industry, and there's something else that I began to understand that I needed to speak. I needed to talk about. I needed to be able to translate in this industry. And that was the greater I am. I am an African. I am a female designer. But what else? What is my next? Where do I take this creative understanding to make the world connect to the design language that I'm willing and wanting to share in my career? JD, next slide. So part of my journey in my early 40s was going to Italy in search of wanting to learn from the Italian masters of how do I speak this language of sharing with the world the luxury designer that I am. And we all know that the Italians are famous for their understanding and quality when it comes to luxury. But my first lecture in the first 2 weeks, first 2 days of attending a course said to us, go back to where you come from, connect to your roots, find your legacy and heritage, and build a brand from that, because that's what we all do, designers. We've got to build a brand around who we are, what we do, and what our story is. And I mean, in Africa, what better motif and symbol of a legacy brand could I find than the lion? Because my surname Taukobong means lion in the blanket. So I spent those early 40s roaring my way through my career. Ego-driven, strong, powerful, beastly, just wanting to make sure that I told my story of design in the lioness world that I understood and could translate it into a design language, a design history, because the lion has roamed through the jungles of Africa, finding and exploring, and that part of my design language had to come through, because I needed to then understand that what is a culture? What is a legacy of design that I wanted to leave? And when I've roared myself through my entire 10 years of my later careers, my voice kind of, my throat needed a little bit of water, a glass of water just to quench my thirst, to say, it's been a roaring success, but there's now time to tell a different story. I needed to connect to the personality of the brand. I needed to live the lioness ways. The lioness, not always hunting, not always fierce, also just relaxing in the midst of the jungle and enjoying the sight, is where I found my 25 years to say, this is where I am. This is the essence of who I am. This is the essence of the brand that I want to live. And as I was developing the style of the brand and working now to reveal who the lioness is behind the Ditau brand, I started working on my initials, NT. And then as we're designing those, I thought, do we finish off the look with a square? Do I finish the look with a perfect circle? And I realized that I'm perfectly imperfect, that the circle could not be complete. And the circle that I related to was the circle of life, the Enzo circle as found in the Buddhism culture, where it shows that it's limitless, it's infinity. It is imperfect, because that is the process of you connecting with your design style, with your creativity, that we don't know anything. Who am I to say to myself that I'm a luxury designer, I'm an African designer? Is that it? Is that all there is in my box of discovery? Surely there is more that I can reveal to the world. And this circle just helped me to understand, to say, what we do is not necessarily always perfect. It's broken. It's a form of discovery. We are imperfect. And this represents the most important lesson I learned as a designer in trying to identify who I am, is that we shouldn't try too hard. We're all just trying to find this understanding of how we communicate with clients and what's the real message that we want to share with them in their interior spaces. And as I was doing that, it brought me to the book, The Real Interior, which is my autobiography, talking about my experiences in this design journey, and understanding these titles that I put on myself and the pressures that it led to. Who was I truly without everything, without the glam, without the glitz, without the so-called African designer to the stars? Where else was I finding and connecting to my interior design creative language? And I had to go back to nature. And it wasn't me wanting to go back to nature, it was a project that led me to say, I want to get back to nature, because I had an opportunity to design a show house at a very prestigious estate, eco estate, may I add. And I came with that boss designer to say, top black designer, this is what we do. This is how we create the interiors. And it was very ostentatious. It was very over the top. And the architect pulled me back to say, we're trying to create an eco estate. Our style of the house that we've given you is quite farm style. Can you pull your design back a little bit? Can you reveal? Can you go more raw with it? And I was just so confused. I traveled to Italy looking for what the prestigious designers could do. What does it mean to go raw with the design? What does it mean to step back and allow the design to breathe in a space? And how would I then have the design understanding to reveal that design to where I could take it? And it was a huge learning curve to say, ego down, lioness, let go of that draw. Let's go into nature. Let's see where we can pull our inspiration from, because the most important thing as a designer that I understood was defining and understanding your design inspiration doesn't necessarily come from the rooms of top hotels, from the rooms of so-called stars. It comes from what surrounds us. It comes from pulling that authenticity of understanding into our design, and also creating interiors for people to heal, to restore, to connect with their soul. And in doing that, I began to understand what is most important was to understand the elements, to understand that if I'm trying to reach a designer or a client in Russia, if I'm bracketing or if I'm packaging myself in this box of I am an African, I am a luxury designer, that is quite limiting. How do I then design for everybody around the world if I'm only concentrated on this continent? Because I'm again saying, I'm stating the obvious. Yes, I'm African, and then what? So what, actually? Because you've got to be able to say, what is the unifying thread that anybody in the world can relate to? And what I found was that it's nature. We all know those interiors where you walk in and they feel quite static because there's overuse of glass, overuse of leather, overuse of metallics, and it affects your senses. And I realized that when you connect to nature, there's a balance, because you've got earth, you've got wind, you've got air, you've got fire. And the joy of being a creative is understanding how to merge those worlds, how to make nature play into your interior so that we can enhance and relax and soothe the soul, so people can enjoy spaces of healing. I realized that my design journey wasn't just to create show houses, it was to create environments where people can really live and enjoy those spaces. And I know as creatives right now during a journey of a pandemic, that's the most important thing, to say, how do we help our clients connect to their homes so that they can be longer in those homes during a pandemic, where we are at any time in our lives facing some sort of a lockdown, and understanding the elements of nature that resonate with the soul, and being able to move, wean, and expand at all times so that we are balancing people in their homes. So whatever style that you are, or whatever style that I am, the connection, the global connection, is understanding the four elements of life, of nature: earth, wind, fire, water, with other elements that you can be bringing in as metal, and the seventh element being spirit. Because that's what makes our interiors come alive, is understanding the tacticalness of what we're trying to create and how we bring in the balance of that. You can't have too much glass, you can't have too much grass, you can't have too much wood. It's just the fine understanding of the perfectly imperfect balance of those elements, to show clients that these are the spaces that make you want to sit there forever. These are the spaces that want you to put up your feet and relax in that environment. It's a designer who understands their true thread of what inspires them to be and how they connect that story to clients. And nature doesn't mean that we're bringing in jungles of interiors for them to now have to sit in, but it's just understanding your colors, your textures, your palettes of what connects people to something that feels relaxing, feels restorative, and creates design harmony. Because the journey of a designer is almost to let go of that ego, to let go of those titles that we are putting ourselves in. You know, when the event organizer called me, they said to me, my topic should be I am an African. And I understood that because that's what I've always pushed. But I wanted to make sure that designers and creators out there know that we are limitless. As long as you hold the creative pen, you are the storyteller of whatever you're creating. You need to know that you need to reach out to somebody or create a look and feel for somebody in the Philippines, in the US. We cannot be limiting ourselves to only being African designers. Yes, this is where our roots are, but our story, our vibration needs to go way past that limit of understanding and throw us over the borders. We are designers without borders. That's who we are. That's who we truly are in the essence of what we can create, because an artist is limitless. We can go wherever the creativity and the journey of a designer takes us. And as you can see, the more I let go of my ego as a boxed designer of who I thought I was, the more the designs that I was creating started to breathe life, started to breathe the true essence of what it is to create spaces where people can heal, restore, and revive their souls. When the world shuts down and sends you home, you need to make sure that those spaces that you've created for anybody in this world are relatable. People can then connect and enhance themselves because of the interiors you have consciously created. Whatever your brand is, it doesn't matter if you're a traditional designer, it doesn't matter if you're a designer in China, it doesn't matter if you only do modern, sleek apartments. You have to make sure that the elements of nature, the elements of all those finishes and tactile surfaces that people can connect with have been thought through. They can connect to them. They know how to pull it all in together to say, if there's wood, there needs to be water. If there's water, there needs to be glass. If there's glass, there needs to be metal. And then you got to step back and allow the spirit of those who reside in those spaces, be it hotel, be it leisure, be it corporate, to find themselves in that design process, to be able to connect to their true thread of who that designer is. And luckily for you, I've written an entire book about the real interior. And I called it the real interior because I realized that we're not only about sofas, fabrics, furnitures, and finishes. We're also about who we are on the real side of who we are within ourselves. And once you connect that thread of purity in design, in creativity, in your artistic flair and expression, you really understand who you are. And once you understand who you are and stand firm in the title of I am, you realize that you're actually limitless. You're a creative, you're an artist. You express yourself through your chosen field, be it through corporate, be it through residential, be it through retail, be it through exquisite interiors of yachts, planes, automobiles. That's who we are. As long as we understand that we've got to balance it all, bring it home, and make sure we continue to be creative. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Nthabi, for taking us on that inspiring journey. You always are inspiring, and it's so wonderful to hear about your journey.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being with us today. And to everyone who's still listening, don't miss our last talk for the day as we host CEO Leon Ritz from ErgoForm and ErgoSense, and he'll be discussing the future office. So we'll see you there. Thanks, Nthabi.
Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Hi again, we are back. We see that there were some questions for Nthabi. Sorry about that.
No problem.
We have some questions from our audience. Your talk was so beautiful, and everyone's complimenting you and saying it was so inspiring. So let's see what the questions are. What is your best thing about what is that? Boho African.
Boho African. Wonderful. Well, for me, it's just the permission or the simplicity of just being. You know, I'm African, and I also enjoy just putting on a kaftan, throwing away the labels, putting on my sandals, and just walking through my space of authenticity. And that is the joy of being able to connect 2-3 worlds of just being a nomad, being somebody who's curious about different cultures. That to me is the essence of the boho. And I found that mostly when I went to Morocco. There was a time I was wanting to study luxury lifestyle, and I found myself attending a seminar in Marrakesh. and just seeing how the world's connected there. That, you have a country based in Africa, but it's inspired by French culture, Turkish culture, Spanish culture, Indian culture, Moorish culture, and just seeing how all of that transcends into a world that is just Afro-Bohemian.
Stunning. Let's see if there's any more questions. Which was your best Lux project or place you have been to in your travels?
So for me, it'd have to be Monaco was the place I traveled to in my pursuit of Lux, and only to be told there. And anytime I sought to find places that connect me to true luxury, be it Dubai, be it Italy, be it Paris, there was always somebody there to tell me that, what do you understand luxury to truly be? Is luxury things that are expensive, things that are quality made, or is luxury the simplicity of living well? Luxury is having family around you. Luxury in Africa is having good weather, and that started for me to unpack what luxury honestly means, the luxury of time, to do what you really love and enjoy. That's true luxury. It's
And
not a
even more
space.
so.
Yes,
Even
it's
more
not
so
a
now.
destination. It's just the luxury to put your feet up and work from home.
Absolutely. And what is your next?
I'm living my next. I've got 25 years of experience in an environment or an industry that I really enjoyed, and I now know that it's not necessarily pushing the next project; it's sharing the knowledge that I've had. So any platforms like this, where I can talk about design, inspire students, mentor, that's where I am. After that, well, because you can only talk this much, something else will reveal. But I'm not pushing anything. To survive a pandemic is really my true next. Design world and how I interpret that journey will always be part of me.
That's phenomenal. Where can we get your book?
Online, you can get it at Amazon, you can get it at Loot, you can get it exclusive, Take a Lot,
Wow.
There's so many platforms. You just got to type The Real Interior. You can even get it through my website, nthabitaukobong.com. And enjoy the journey of understanding who I really am and who the real interior of my soul is.
Divine. Next question is, what's your best natural material to use?
Wood. It's a funny story because when that show house I was talking about, when they told me to go strip it down, make it bare, I was referred to a retailer. I think it was Valence at that stage. And I was like, oh my gosh, top black interior designer goes to Valence. I don't sell wooden stumps to my clients. But seeing that natural wood at those retailers really made me understand the purity of what we're trying to do and the imperfection that we find in nature, and just allowing that to define a new style and language of design is where I really enjoy. So I'm not high polishing anything anymore. I'm just revealing it in its bare, authentic truth.
Absolutely stunning. And that's all our questions. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming back.
Thank you.
Chat soon.
Right,
thanks to our audience. See you all at later for the next chat. Bye.